Okay, well, I'm so glad that everyone has been able to join us today for the epic Mother of Dragons Marketing the Techwell Conference Beasts. And I guess first things first, I should probably introduce myself. So if you don't know me, my name is Allie Cletus, and I am the Senior Marketing Product Manager of Events. And I want to tell you a little bit more. So let's dive in. Nope, that's the wrong way. There we go. Okay, so meet the mother. So that's me. As you can see, I'm really on point with my costume because I am dressed up as Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. And if you've never watched Game of Thrones a day in your life, then this presentation will still make sense, although you may not get some of the dragon magic that's happening with it. So when I started thinking up ideas for this brown bag, I said, well, there's 3 dragons in Game of Thrones, and I have 3 conferences. So that's kind of what brought the idea up to the surface. I'm the main person responsible for doing all of the marketing for Star East, Star West, and Agile Testing Days USA. I've worked at Techwell for 8 years now, and I've been in marketing for 15 years. And I do actually have 3 of my own real children, who are Brady, age 11, Aubrey, age 10, and Beckett, my little 2-year-old dragon. And in case you hadn't already guessed from the name of our presentation, I am a huge Game of Thrones fan. Although if you've watched Game of Thrones, I will also tell you that I am pretending that the show ended on the 3rd episode of the last season because I didn't like anything that happened after that. So that's kind of what I'm going with. All right, so what else? Where do we start with conferences? So I kind of thought of the conferences in a way, with the way the life cycle is, as like little dragons growing up. So that means that we have all these different phases, right? So we have the dragon eggs phase, the baby dragons phase, and when they're the full-size beasts. And then, of course, when they land after flight and they need to go rest at the end. So let's take a look at what the dragon egg phase would be. Okay, if you're not familiar with dragon eggs, you're about to be. Here we go. And also, I will let you know that if you have never watched Game of Thrones, the clips may not make as much sense, but it's kind of cool because you get to see the different phases in action. So here we go. So this is the dragon egg phase. Look at me. It's like, what? There's 3 of these beautiful things?
And the Shadowlands beyond the Shire. The ages have turned them to stone, but they will always be beautiful.
Thank you, Magister.
Alright, so there's the 3 beautiful dragon eggs, just like the 3 conferences. Alright, so as I begin to start gathering the eggs up and starting to take care of the little babies before they hatch, there's several different things that I have to do. I have to work on the conference key dates, which, if you're like, what are the conference key dates? Let's take a look. There we go. All right, so the conference key dates are basically what we've kind of set up for ourselves as goal dates. So you can kind of see here on this big red line at the bottom, those are the actual dates of the conference week. And each conference has a specific weeks out goal for different items that we do. So on here you can see at like 48 weeks out, and actually 52 weeks out, you'll see there's things like setting up the conference submission for getting speaking proposals in. 48 weeks out, we are doing the archiving of the previous site. Then we have doing the microsites and things like that. But this document is really handy because, as you can see, there are a lot of dates on here for each event. So each column is a particular conference, and everything is stepped back the amount of weeks out that our goal is. We also put handy dandy things on here, such as what our virtual conference or expo dates are, what hotel we're going to be staying at, the city and state, what the room rate is, and any type of registration deadline for those rooms, because they only will hold our hotel rooms in our block for a certain amount of days, and then they kind of like release those rooms. So we keep all those handy things in here on the key dates. And a fun fact is I actually keep this key dates document as my wallpaper on my desktop because I look at it so much. So anyways, this is one of my favorite docs, and anything highlighted in yellow are very important dates, and the ones in red, such as the all program content live, is a super duper important date. Now I will say one thing that's kind of great about our company is that these are the goals that we want to have these done. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same as a deadline. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts and pieces to getting the conference program content together and things like that. So these are always a goal. Sometimes we may deliver things a little earlier, sometimes a little bit later, but this at least keeps us on track for what we can expect. Next up is the marketing plan. So we start doing the marketing plan literally as soon as the conference begins because we have to plan so far out. The marketing plan itself is multiple tabs that I keep track of. I have actually my own marketing dashboard that when we start tracking really detailed numbers and performance of ads, usually that's around 16 weeks before the conference. I have a special tab for that, but I also have this external advertising plan, and you'll notice here I have like an external advertising budget that I always keep up the top, and then on any individual conference I probably have somewhere between 25 to 40 different external advertising efforts that I'm going to be doing. Not all of them are paid items, but a lot of them are. And each conference cycle, at the end, I will take and I will analyze our return on ad spend, our ROAS, if you've never heard that. And you can see where that's listed out here. And I like to color code. I'm a big fan of color coding. So if I've had a positive return on ad spend, then I'll shade it in green, and if I've had negative, I shade it in red because those are my least favorite things. But it's a great way for us to be able to track the amount of sessions that an ad has brought us. That just means the number of website visits and the number of goal completions that people have had. And I'll go a little bit into more detail when we look at Google Analytics about this. And then we have different goal values assigned for actions. So if someone is in my Google AdWords display ad remarketing funnel, you can see here for Star East 2019, I had over 6,400 sessions generated from that particular ad campaign, and I had 141 of those actually result in a visit to the Reg Wizard. Each visit to the Reg Wizard has a value associated with it. You can see here that we've done some super fancy math and calculated that each visit is worth $707. So that's about $99,000. And then we also calculate the number of people that have joined the mailing list. That's an even larger goal value, but kind of a harder goal to obtain. And we have 19 people from that particular ad campaign that joined our mailing list just from seeing that ad, which gave us about $17,000. We also have this fancy tool that we look at called e-commerce time decay conversion value. That basically just means that you may have seen something about the conference for the first time through a Google remarketing funnel ad, but you may not have taken an action from there. So the time decay takes into account that you may have had multiple touches and the value kind of decays as you go, but at least it attributes some value to an action if it knows that you viewed a display ad and clicked on that, and then maybe clicked on my email later, at least assigns some value to both actions, which is really cool. So you can kind of see there I had over 2,650% return on ad spend. That's phenomenal, and honestly not necessarily typical. I would say an average return on ad spend that we consider to be good is usually 200%, where we've like doubled our money essentially back. But so having 2,650% is absolutely amazing. Okay, so that's a little bit about the marketing plan. I also keep track of all the status of things because right now this conference just happened, so everything was pushed live. But as I go through the cycle, there'll be some things that are still pending and things like that. I have my own task board that I keep for myself, where I put everything in sequential order so that I don't make sure not to miss any particular dates. Here we go. So what's next? We do a lot of brainstorming prior to marketing a conference and getting things off the ground. So one of our main initiatives this year was to start looking at the video brainstorming ideas. We want to incorporate more video into pretty much everything that we're doing in our efforts. So we had a really cool video brainstorm session with the events team members. And this was cool because we all wrote down our different suggestions, kind of what the requirements would be for that, what the potential benefit would be, and then we kind of voted on what our top items would be. So we came up this year with these 6 different video suggestions of what we wanted to do, and great news is that we were able to capture all of this video content at Star East 2019, and we're planning on executing all 6 of these videos. So really excited about that. You'll be seeing those start to roll out as you see more and more Star West assets go out, and I'm already working on Star East 2020, believe it or not. So that's kind of how we work with our different video ideas. There's also a lot of graphics brainstorming that goes on. So I really try to not let things get too stale, and that is a challenging task when you have 6 different conferences total per year at our company, and we're oftentimes selling very similar conference experiences. But we do go through and we kind of try to make things look a little bit different. We rotate the colors of the headers around now. So now the first email you get may have some kind of gray colored header. The second email may have something green. The third email may be more white toned. But we try to mix and match up the shading just to give it some additional visual interest. So we do things like that. I'll also think of what's a new way that I can do something with networking events. So like this year, I came up with, for Star East 2020, I'm going to do something about like join the testing community, and I'm going to have all these different little avatars on there. Because it's all about participating in the community. That's what the networking event's goal is. I also am trying to utilize the personas more. So if you were able to attend Patrice's Amazing Brown Bag on personas, you know that we have kind of come up with these key profiles for different products. And for Star East, my key profiles, in like my top 4, are the novice tester, the experienced tester, the test manager, and an automation specialist. So we've come up with those 4 key personas, and so I'm trying to generate some graphics around those as well. So you can see here where I came up with 4 different avatars based on actually their persona descriptions of what these people like and things like that. So we're trying to bring them to life. And then we'll also think of, okay, what are some innovative ways that we can do the emails with maybe some gifts? So like this Spring into Star West one, this is a concept I came up with because we were going to do a spring launch promo, and we kind of had a butterfly come flying in off the side and land on the spring. So it's just a little thing, but in our world, the more we can get people to enjoy the email experience and not look at it as spam and not opt out, the better. So to me, the more we can do this kind of thing is great. And we are very, very lucky to have our graphic designer on staff, Jamie Borders. So all of these crazy cuckoo ideas that I come up with and the rest of the team come up with, Jamie will help us kind of refine them and execute them. So what does this mean for consultants? So part of the presentation is not just to let you know what I do as a marketing manager, but to also say how can others get involved in some of these various steps of the process. So you can see, like in this particular phase, being able to get new content ideas that appealed to you would be amazing. So what are some different ideas of how you can do this? So email designs. If you see a cool email out there, could be for a competitor, it could be a shoe company. It doesn't even necessarily have to be in our space, but if you see an email design that is really cool and you could see it potentially working for some of our products, at least concept-wise, send it to us. You can email us at marketing_team@techwell.com and let us know specifically what you liked about that email, because we keep folders of email ideas out there, and I know it really helps me during the brainstorm process when I'm trying to pick and choose what might be the right things. Email subject lines. If you see something that as a subject line makes you open the email, that is the ultimate goal. So if something just catches your eye and you're like, I have no idea what this email is about, but the subject line is cool, forward that over to us, because like you can see in this example, this one made me laugh, so I opened it. It said avoiding agile chaos, and it had a little skull emoji, but it made me laugh, so I opened it. So that was kind of one that I saved for myself, because I was like, you know what, we could totally do something like that. Email graphics. So if you see something in an email that's really visually appealing, it could be a static image or like an animated GIF. You can see in this particular example, there's this guy like up on top of a desk, like throwing papers up. Like, I don't know that we would necessarily use that same image, but the concept is really funny and I think very relatable. So if you see something like that, forward that on over to us. If you think of any video ideas, so you kind of saw how we had the video brainstorming session, but if you see a video that you think is really compelling, maybe it's a testimonial video, maybe it's a video where they're being, like someone's being followed around the conference and it's their own personal transformation journey of what they were trying to get out of a conference. I mean, I don't know what that video is, but if you see something really cool, then send that over to us, especially if it's less than 2 minutes long, because that's kind of a key time frame for how long we can potentially keep people's interest. When things get longer, really than almost longer than a minute, definitely up to 2 minutes, they start to lose interest, and it's very hard for us to get them to watch the entire thing from the marketing side when it's not purely content. Plus, if you see any like cool conference websites, if you see a special promo offer, if you see a cool ad like on Google AdWords and you have those ads like stalking you around everywhere, if you see anything that kind of seems neat that way, keep us in mind and forward it on over, because we will certainly love to have the more ideas. All right, so now that I've gone past the dragon eggs phase, I'm probably moving over to the baby dragons, but that's not it, because that is not the right order. So hold on, let me fast forward here. I will fix this. Baby dragons. Okay, so these are our early marketing efforts. Okay, so as you know, we had the eggs, and let's just see when those eggs hatch.
To be with them?
You will be.
Your dragons were born. Our magic was born again. It is strongest in their presence, and they are strongest in yours. You will be with them. Winter, summer, winter again. Just 1,000 seasons. You will be with them, and we will be with you until time comes to an end.
Alright, so the eggs are hatching. We got these baby dragons.
Come home.
It's about to get crazy.
Stormborn.
Okay?
This is not my home. My home is across the sea where my people are waiting for me.
You will be waiting a long time.
She seems very confident, doesn't she? Okay. She's preparing for battle, everyone.
Dracarys.
See, it's about to get real, guys. This is me ramping up. Okay, so I'm ramped up. What am I ramped up for? Okay, now it's time for the call for speakers. So the call for speakers actually opens about a full year before the event. So just know that if you're at the event, it's already probably open for submissions for the following year. And they're always on the TechWell page. So if you go to the TechWell website and then speak at a conference, they open there first just because we don't put the call for speakers on the current website because it would get kind of confusing. But they're open all the way until about 32 weeks out for the event. And it's really a very, very cool submission system. Here's a sample of the form that you can see for reference, but all of the forms are submitted through our Drupal platform. I send out about 2 or 3 email blasts promoting the open submission window to our database. And we have about 85,000 people right now subscribed to Star Conference Marketing, so it's a lot of people. And we typically get about 200 to 300 submissions back. I think for the stars, I usually need maybe 2 blasts. I don't typically go into 3 because I don't really have a struggle with getting to my 200 submission goal. But there have been years with certain conferences that I've marketed in the past that I've needed to do extra submissions. But definitely submit a talk. Okay, so how are the submissions handled? We have a speaker management system on the back end. So when I log in as an admin, I go into our speaker management system, and you can see here are a few submissions that happened for Star East 2020 already. We already have several submissions in for there. And you can see this really critical status area. As the program committee starts to review submissions, they put in like a definite include, a maybe status, a no status. Once something is definitely selected, they list it as on program. When we get to the very end, they let me know, okay, everything that is going to be used has been marked as on program. And then I know which sessions to actually convert into a live node on the conference sites. So they go straight from the management system right onto the live website from some magical backend steps. The program committee reviews submissions very carefully. Every single submission is looked at. You can kind of see here where the presentation description, main message, speaker bio, all of those things are really important because they do look at that carefully. Concurrent sessions are converted. So the submission management system, I should note, is just for concurrent sessions. The tutorial talks are not done through the speaker management system because those people are actually all invited. No one is submitting a talk for the tutorials. Those are considered to be like the more seasoned speakers that are invited for that. So if you ever wondered why do I not see anything on the tutorials from these speakers, that's why. All right, what's next? Now we go over to the conference microsites. So the conference microsites are basically just where after a previous conference has ended, we then convert the site over to a very small truncated version. It's a way for us to be able to continue getting registrations for the next year, even though we don't have any content yet. In the old days when I first started working here, we literally had like a 404 error. Page not available, come back in 6 months type of message. And now we have these really fancy, nice conference microsites. It kind of uses the conference archive for previous year's content. It shows what the previous year had for keynote speakers, and it also has like hotel information and a few things there. But the key thing for the microsites is that the registration wizard is there, and that's how we can start getting money. But I'm involved in building that new registration wizard. So I have to have received all of the graphics for there. I work with our IT team and our client support team, and we build the registration wizard and test it and everything else. What else? I think I kind of mentioned that the hotel will also be on there. That usually is because at this point, when the microsites are pushed live, our hotel agreements are signed already and the room block has been opened. So that's all where we can start gathering up the information. And it's really surprises me more and more. I see a trend where people will register earlier and earlier, even though there's no content, just because we have such a great reputation, or they're alumni and they've been to a previous event and they've enjoyed it so much. So there's a lot of faith. This is also the point when I start doing Google AdWords campaigns. So before you kind of saw a snippet of the external advertising marketing plan, about 80% of my paid external advertising efforts are through Google AdWords, and that's just simply because they tend to have the best return on ad spend. I still do other lesser performing campaigns just to make sure that we have variety, but our Google AdWords campaigns include paid search. If you're like, what does that mean? When you type in software testing conference into Google and you have those paid placements at the very top, those are paid search ads that are being basically displayed to you based on your search terms and the amount of money that the people that are paying for the ads have to spend. We also have something called remarketing display ads. This is kind of my personal favorite. Remarketing display ads are basically when you have come to our STAR conference site or Agile Testing Days USA site, etc. We cookie you, and we essentially kind of follow you around a little bit like a creepy stalker, let's be honest, but in a good way, because we're just trying to give you ads that are based on the things that you are interested in. So if you've come to our site before, we assume then that you may have an interest in our conferences. So then we have remarketing display ads that will display if you are, let's just say, on a news site or something like that. Then you may see an ad for Star East and you're like, how do they know? Well, it's all through the magic of Google and those cookies. We also have affinity display ads, which are basically custom built affinity campaigns where we have criteria and Google's magic to say that people have a predicted likelihood to want this product. So we think that you might have an affinity for software testing because you have visited the Tricentis website and this and this and this, and it looks at someone's actual browser activity to determine certain affinity buckets. So we do those. And then we also have specialized campaigns, so not just for the entire conference as a whole, but we will do specialized campaigns to the Leadership Summit. We'll do specialized campaigns to Women Who Test. We put all kinds of additional demographics and things like that into our display campaigns. So there's a lot of science and things like that that go into our Google campaigns. And something that's kind of cool, I just thought it would be a neat little snapshot to see my Start East 2019 remarketing funnels. This is what my dashboard looks like when I go in and start looking at things. And here you can kind of see my top performing ads we have what we call the conversion value divided by cost. So that's like essentially how much dollar amount you're making off of $1. So this testing in the dark ad, I made $47 off of $1 spent. So that is pretty great. However, it wasn't my best performing ad as far as interaction rate. I had more people interact with this ad with the super handsome Mike Sowers and beautiful Angie Jones. Almost a 1% click-through rate on a display ad, which is really, really good. And I made $34 off of $1 here. So that's kind of what our back end looks like. In our remarketing group, there are certain ads I would put in this group that I would not put in others. I put referral program ads for the first time. So since you've been to our site and you're familiar with our conference, I thought, hey, why not let people know that you can make money from referring a friend? But I wouldn't necessarily do the referral program to someone who is searching just for a software testing conference and has no idea who or what we are. So those are some of the different thoughts that go into our campaigns. All right. You can see here in this area, this is what some of the display ads look like. We have what's called responsive ads. So we use particular images and text, and we create multiple different versions through Google Magic, and they create responsive ads based on whatever placement is available for different things. So it could be that one website you're on, it has a 300 by 250 space available, but another website you're on has a 728 by 90. So Google, through their infinite wisdom, has all of those options readily available through their responsive ads. All right, let's see what's next. All right, how do we know that any of this is working, right? That's kind of the question everybody wonders. Well, we have the super powerful Google Analytics. And just recently we went to a Marketo training where our Marketo consultant said that we have some of the most advanced Google Analytics tracking that she's ever seen. So I'm thinking that we are really rocking this, guys. You can see here that literally every single thing that I do has a UTM tracking link attached to it in Google. So I can see exactly how many users, individual users, versus how many sessions I had for a particular ad type. And then I can also see if they bounced off my site quickly, how many pages they had per session, what was the average session duration. Paid search, you can see, was really, really good in kind of all of these areas, which makes sense because people are actively looking for something that keyword matched with us. So they searched for software testing conference or STAR conference. They found the STAR East paid search ad. They came and had a session. They spent 2.5 pages on our site in almost 3 minutes of time. And out of the 2,944 sessions, 91 of those ended up going to our registration wizard. So you can see here where we have our different goals set up with our conversion values. And we have registration wizard, submitted to speak, joined the mailing list. We even have other things that don't have a value attached, but we would consider a desirable activity, like the fact that they went to the pricing and packages page. So we can kind of see all of those things in our Google Analytics goal tracking area. Okay, so how can you help at this little like baby phase of the conference as we're just kind of starting to get going? We're making the microsites, all that. You can actually submit a talk. So a lot of you are experts in your field. You certainly know a lot that people would love to hear. So don't be afraid to submit some speaking proposals. If you're not sure like what's needed and you don't want to maybe spend your time on something that isn't going to get approved or like maybe has a lower chance because the topic isn't necessarily relevant in the program chair or program committee's mind, feel free to reach out to Mike Sowers for the STARS or Gene Gottimer for the Agile DevOps conferences. I'm sure that they'd be willing to give you some suggestions or feedback on any topics or suggestions that they would have for you this year. We also love unique topics. Of course, I would say creating a cool headline is great, making sure that your summary makes sense, that you have some concrete examples in there. You don't really have to spend forever just to create a, catchy outline of what you're going to talk about, and give some tangible examples too. So just being like, I'm going to show cool stuff is not really persuasive, versus I'm going to show the examples of how I did A, B, and C. Here's another cool tool. A lot of people don't know that we actually do archive every single conference. And if you need a link, then you can just ping on the general channel or send the marketing team an email and ask. But each conference has their own archive where you can view what the previous year's concurrent sessions were. So if you're like, well, what got accepted last year? You can just go browse the archive. And sometimes, at least for my brain, I'll get great ideas looking off of other past ideas. I'll kind of use it as a springboard to move forward with. All right, let's see. All right, so we've gone through our baby dragon phase, and now we are kind of going beast mode. What's beast mode look like? Let's see. Okay, so we're in the key marketing window, guys. Things are getting intense. Ready for battle. Okay, just not messing around at this point, okay? So I'm going to call this the key marketing window when we've got our full-grown dragons. So that means that we're going to start tackling all of the huge tasks for the key windows. That includes the email beast. So each week we kind of set aside Tuesdays as a conference marketing day. Based on a lot of marketing research, not just from us, but from other companies, Tuesdays are actually the best day for events types emails, as far as response rate, click-throughs, things like that. So Tuesdays are always reserved for conferences. We also like to steal Wednesdays. So each product has its own kind of designated day, because we try very hard to make sure that people don't get more than one marketing message per day. Actually publishing or the media team have Wednesdays, but they don't email quite as frequently as conferences. So a lot of times we will try to steal Wednesdays from them, and then we will oftentimes send messages on Saturday or Sunday if needed. Those are kind of in a reserve if there are a lot of messages that are being split out. Each week kind of goes by in a column format that we do, and we have these little codes. G+9, I can just tell you, is a top takeaways type of email. That's what I'd be sending to my star conferences list. I also have a hotel deadline reminder going out to my current reg list, so that keeps things in mind. But certain messages we have to split days as well. So you'll see where we say rest of list. That's because somebody else on that Tuesday or Wednesday had priority, and so we will get the rest of the list that day. And we do a lot of fancy schmancy slicing and dicing through all of this. And all these email beast topics, I think we probably have like at least 50 outlined. There are certain core messages that we consider, like for example, keynotes announced would be a core message. Super early bird deadline reminder, early bird deadline reminder. A lot of those things we consider to be a core message where that product and that email will take top priority that day because it is such a critical message. But once we start doing all that, our magic comes into play and we get these gorgeous looking emails. This was actually a cool one that we did, which was a keynotes revealed animated GIF where the curtain pulls back and starts showing you all the different full program content that's coming at Star West. Our current email automation system is called Sales Fusion. However, we are migrating over to the Marketo platform, which, to be honest with you, is considered like a gold standard in the marketing world. I'm personally really excited about this. It's been a fun challenge so far to just see what the options are available. We've already rebuilt some of our first programs in there, which are cool. And if you're ever wondering, well, how many emails does a particular conference send out, I went through and I counted, and Star East 2019 had 28 different email blasts. So that does not necessarily all go out to the same audience. Sometimes they'll go out to speakers, sometimes they're going out to the people who are currently registered, sometimes they're going out to people who are only paid registrants, not just the current reg, which would include like exhibitors or speakers. And then some of those emails also were for the Star East virtual conference from Christy. But there are 28 total emails, so we really rocked it good. Okay, so if you're ever wondering, okay, what does it look like inside Marketo as you're building emails? Here's a kind of a cool glimpse. We build out these programs with our email sends, and we have what they call local assets, where we make our actual email topic, and then we go through and we build our smart lists and do all this kind of setup stuff and scheduling, etc. So that's what Marketo looks like behind the scenes. This is what it looks like when we actually go to build our emails. It's in this really cool like WYSIWYG editor. We do have some access to the code, however, it's a little complicated to go in and do some of the hard coding. But essentially we have to select from available modules, and then we can alter the content of those modules in there. Oh, here we go. So now that we're in full beast mode is also when we do the full site builds. Like we have those goal dates that you kind of saw earlier, 27 weeks out, we're doing the marketing pages. That's kind of the training classes, tips to convince your boss, how to be an exhibitor, all of those things. We also, at 26 weeks out, will push the tutorials live. That's some of the first real content that we get after keynotes. Concurrent sessions are live at 24 weeks out, and then all content is live at about 17 weeks out. We also, after everything gets pushed live from the 17 weeks out content live date, we run Screaming Frog, an SEO cleanup with our IT team. They run the report for us, and then we go in and we clean up anything that we see, because there are a lot of back-end settings where, like for example, if a speaker was at Star East 2019 and they're not at Star East 2020, but they're still selected to our domain, then people could start to get a 404 error when they are using search results in Google. So we try to clean all that up to give people the best user experience, and hopefully not ding our score on Google for having bad links that are live. We also assign job function and interest filters to all of the sessions. Usually the program committee is really great at this, but we'll go through and just double check that nothing was forgotten about. We also have speaker videos. So you can see here in this example where Isabel Evans submitted a quick little like 60-second video just telling what she's talking about. We take all those speaker videos, upload them to YouTube, and then we embed them in the session description. And the job function and interest filters you can see are actually in the bottom of the talk description as well, so people can click on them. If they wanted to see test techniques, you can click on test techniques and it'll show you not just that session, but all sessions that are tagged test techniques. So it's kind of a really nice feature. Okay, more marketing magic. I could honestly give you a full hour just on this page because there's so many different things. But we currently do a lot of external marketing, as you might imagine. Some of the things that we use now are the community sites like Sticky Minds and Agile Connection. You can see an example here on Sticky Minds where we had one of our STAR conference ads on there. We do media partnerships with other people that have publications like Tech Beacon and SD Times. That's where basically we'll allow them to be a media partner with us, and they will send things out or put things on their site in exchange for being listed on our site. So it's a really nice exchange. Google AdWords, of course, LinkedIn paid campaigns. Here's an example of a LinkedIn paid campaign I did for the Leadership Summit, where I even included a really cool video about the summit in there. Twitter paid campaigns. We'll also do partnerships. Here's like an example of a Twitter campaign that we did with Parasoft, where they sponsored it with us. We advertise on other things like Methods and Tools, Ministry of Testing. There are free event sites, which basically just mean that you can post your event on their site for free. So that's obviously, we're big fans of that. Quora, that's where you can have a community. If you've ever been to Quora, you can ask questions. So if somebody is asking a question on what's the best tool for test automation, then they may see an ad for a Selenium class from Star East. So we try to do some question-based advertising on Quora. Software Engineering Daily, Software Testing Help. You can see an example of the Software Testing Help dedicated email blast that I did recently here. Vendor co-marketing. Alex does an amazing job of helping us with vendors, people that are exhibiting at the conference, sign up with us and trade for them posting like 4 tweets and a couple of Facebook posts. We'll give them an ad in our newsletter or on one of our community sites, etc. So it's just another free exchange that we do. So there's about maybe 35 external ad campaigns. That's how many I had recently for Star East. And I thought one of the cool stats to look at was our key marketing windows. So for Star East 2019, we received about 20% of all registrations by our gift card deadline. We received an additional 14% of registrations by the super early bird deadline. And now gift card and super early bird, just so you know, are only 4 weeks apart. So that's not a long time span to almost double your numbers. And then our early bird window, so that's again only another 4 weeks between super early bird and early bird. We get an additional 48% of registrations. So by the time we hit our early bird deadline, we have about 81% of all registrations. So that's why those key marketing windows are so important. Okay, so what does this all mean? Why is it important, and how can it relate to you? So one of the things that you can do, really anybody at the company, is helping us to get more social, sharing the love of our products or a post that we have, etc. So we've got avenues like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Hub. Twitter is our @TechWell handle. If you retweet something, let me show you. Where's my Twitter? We have these tweet analytics. So like here's one we had just a tweet about thank you everyone who attended Star East in person and virtually. Now we have a very sad 2 retweets and 2 likes. But the reason why it's important is Twitter has these algorithms, as do a lot of the other channels, and it'll determine the amount of impressions that you have and how interested it thinks people may be in your content based on those activities. So in this particular one, we only had 2 retweets and 2 likes, but we did have 829 impressions of it and 81 media views. So that's probably, the 81 media views is probably why we even got up to 829 impressions. But can you imagine if you saw this and were able to like it or retweet it? Our amount of impressions would skyrocket, because Twitter immediately says when it starts seeing those actions, oh, this isn't crap. People do like this, and we're going to share it with more people. So our reach will really expand if you can help us in that way. Same thing with our Facebook. I've got an example of a Facebook ad here. This is our back end, so you guys can't see it, but we do. That this particular post from the fabulous Kelly reached 788 people and had 149 engagements. It also had 9, 10, 11, like at least 12 likes. So that is why we have more people reach there. So anytime that you see something and you're like, oh, that's great, hit that like button, make a comment. All of those actions really, really help. Don't just keep scrolling. On LinkedIn, we have the TechWell Corp LinkedIn page. So even just following us helps. I'm going to show you here. I'll show you in a minute. This is an example of on LinkedIn how you can just do a like or a comment. This one's kind of sad. Again, only 82 impressions because we only had 1 reaction. So if you're on LinkedIn, you see that, help us out. Okay, the hub too. Don't forget that we also have the hub community, and there are the attendee channels like Stories attendees and things like that, where you can get in and just have conversations with people. People have random questions about stuff, and they get really excited about the events. If you have any insight as a previous attendee or topic expert of what like sessions you may recommend, as an example, I totally would love if you would go into the hub. And maybe even you're interested in doing a takeover with Owen. If you have a subject in the hub that you are really interested in doing a takeover of, please contact Owen because he can maybe schedule you to do a takeover or a mini takeover. Here's our LinkedIn showcase pages. These are brand new. So part of our TechWell LinkedIn page now has these like sub pages where you can then kind of divide up the content so it more topically makes sense for you. But if you haven't already followed us on our LinkedIn showcase page, please go ahead and hit the follow button right in there because we'd love to have you join. I think we only have like 63 people right now on the Star Conferences LinkedIn page. Okay, so now we're on to the final flight.
Where is she?
She'll be here soon.
Didn't travel with you.
No.
All right, so Dragon has landed. Okay, the event is happening, which means on the marketing side, you've got me over here making all of those general session slides that you see in the keynotes rooms up on the big screen. That's the marketing managers kind of working behind the scenes and putting that. I think there's over 100 slides that I worked on through the last Star East conference, so there's a lot of slides in there. We also oversee the film or photo crew on site. We're responsible for any post-conference wrap-up videos, such as this lovely one. So we do this. Here's an example of a wrap-up email I sent to all of the people who had attended, and then we did this cool photo album. So you kind of get the idea. We're just going around having a great time, making photos and videos. Does anybody have questions? So you can ask me on marketing the conferences, Dragons, Game of Thrones, any of that. Questions? Okay, so I have 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Alright, so now I'm going to stop somehow, if I can find the button. Marketing.